My message this morning is life happens. And it's about finding the blessings in the interruptions that life brings into our planned experiences. Have you ever had the experience of being on the road of life, headed to a particular destination, and suddenly there was a roadblock that you didn't know about, and you have to turn off onto an alternate route? You awaken to the thought, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. So you turn off into this detour, and it's a bit unnerving because the road you're on now looks and feels so different than the one that you were just happily on. And as this new road curves around into unfamiliar areas where you don't recognize the sights along the way, you begin to wonder just where this detour is taking you. Will it eventually take you where you set out initially to go, so that you can do the things that you had planned to do? I will call these turnaround experiences, or turn in another direction experiences. For short, we can just call them life interruptions. I've experienced this recently, and it feels like an M. Scott Peck road less traveled trip that wasn't at all foreseen nor planned by me. Many people have had the experience of starting down a particular path or having a set particular goal or project to do within a certain time frame. But their time, attention, and energy seem to have been hijacked to another location, another project, another calling. Being called to do and be something else, which wasn't in our game plan, can be a bit stressful because there are a lot of uncertainties in experiencing changes which have not been initiated by ourselves, but rather by the circumstances of someone we love or something we care about. Often, these life interruptions can be considered challenging, encouraging us at the same time to grow in a new understanding about ourselves and about our relationships with others in our world. I think that most of you are aware that our Sunday services were off the air, as they say, on Sunday, October 4th, and also the 11th, and then also on the 18th. I initially had decided to take a vacay and do some work on my home during the weeks of the 4th and the 11th, and I intended to share our Unity live stream service starting back on the 18th, but life happens, which is the name of my message. I've been watching in terror as the piles of books from my various bookshelves throughout the house became ominous-looking towers of books on my dining room table. Opportunities for my two cats to experience acrobatics as they fly through the air in an avalanche of one of these book towers. Fortunately, my cats have stayed far away from the surface of the dining room table where these towers of books are resting. Maybe because an innate sense of danger that they may have felt toward avalanching books. I'm grateful. But my intention during the week of the 4th and the 11th was to tackle clearing my 5 bookcases of books that I no longer wanted to keep, making room for the growing deluge of books that I've collected this year. Many of them I have yet to read. I have heard that the Salina Public Library's book sale was coming up soon, so I hope to donate a bunch of these books to their sale. But alas, I missed the opportunity to donate, as their sale was October 20th through the 26th. The week of the 4th and the 11th, I intended to get my books back on my home office bookshelves, organized by subject matter. And I wanted also to clear out some file cabinets for articles and papers that I wanted to keep in my office. Then I thought I'd give my carpets a shampoo with my Hoover Spin Scrub 50. It's an old machine, but it's a good one. I even thought that, heck, I might get a room or two painted in my 2 weeks of the 4th and the 11th. Maybe I might do it myself or call in some help. But no painting has been done in my house since that was done shortly after I moved in the house in 2003. So it's really time for a paint job. But this did not happen. Life happened. I saw in the paper that Menards was having a sale on gutter shields and offered, in addition to the sale, they offered 11% rebate. I'd previously been watching TV commercials advertising professionally installed leaf filters for the gutters, and the thought of having to drag out my ladder several times again this fall to clear the dead leaves blocking the flow of rainwater in my gutters. From all the maple trees, all the ornamental pear trees, those are big critters in my neighborhood, and my own prairie fire crabapple tree. This inspired me to get to work on the new gutter project. I bought enough home to place these shields in all of my gutters and also in my duplex neighbors' gutters. This activity brought me notoriety in my Circle Drive neighborhood of senior citizens, as some neighbors who came by to watch me offered to pray for me while I was up on the highest rung of my ladder, and others, curious, inquired about the materials that I was putting up over the gutters. I inspired the friendly neighbor next to my duplex neighbor and the guy who lives next to her, as well as the friend who lives across the street from my house, to go get some and put these up on their gutters as well. So I finished my house and my duplex neighbor's house on Monday evening, but on Tuesday I helped the next door neighbor to my duplex neighbor put the shields up on all of her gutters. And I showed another two male neighbors how they should be installed. It was easy. There was a little piece of paper on each one of these shields, which were 3 feet long. Anyway, we didn't have any problem putting those up in most areas. Okay. So that took out Monday and Tuesday. And I was happy to help my neighbors, but I realized that my projects were taking a back seat here. The blessing from this interruption came on Wednesday, when a windstorm blew at almost 50 to 60 miles per hour here in Salina, and blew a huge amount of those leaves I was talking about into someone else's gutter, because mine were covered with shields, just in time. The blessings of interruptions. On Wednesday, I cleared more bookshelves, but I hadn't put any keeper books back up yet. I wanted to organize, as I mentioned, the shelf by titles. And then on Thursday, a friend of mine, a friend of 30 years, became ill, and I cared for her. But eventually she was hospitalized on Sunday, the 11th. I didn't work on my projects, but I visited the hospital every day until Friday, October, the 16th, when she was released into my care at her home. I love my friend who's like a sister to me, and this is what family does. We care for each other. I decided to cancel the service on the 18th because I was pretty much at her house most of the days that week, that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But progress is being made, and it really was a blessing that she had to go to the hospital. The blessing of this life interruption of my plans led my friend's hospitalization stay to include a new medication that the hospital doctor gave her. And this is helping her regain her strength and inspiring her to be her feisty self again. Had she not gone to the hospital, her condition may have worsened beyond physical repair. So, it's all a blessing. God is good, is at work. Life is full of interruptions, but we can find the blessings in these turn around or turn in another direction experiences if we hold the understanding that God, as the only presence and power in our lives, is always working in our lives and in the lives of others for our highest good. Now I see both cats at the screen door. You can wait, boys. In John 5:17, Jesus countered the complaint of the Pharisees who questioned the healing work that he was doing on the Jewish Sabbath by explaining or saying to them, "My Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working." The Father, or Father, was Jesus' name for God. Now combine this with what Jesus shares in Luke 12:32. "Fear not, little flock, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." This means everything that we need for a joyous, abundant, love-filled, healthy life. Whatever blessings we consider to be part of the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven are freely given to us by God. Now let me explain that in unity, God is not some being up in the sky who grants us wishes or even grants us our prayers. It's not a God that we idolize and pray to for gifts. Jesus said God is spirit. Jesus said God is spirit, and those who worship God must worship in spirit and truth. It is rather that we allow this presence and this power of God, of good, the light and love of God to express through us as Jesus allowed it to express through him. And hence he was able to say, "I and the Father are one." John 10:30. We understand that we too are God in the sense that we are expressions of God, learning how to express this presence of God, which indwells us. This month I received the November-December edition of Unity Magazine, and I really enjoyed the interview that Katie Kuntz gives to Panache Desai in an article called "Awakening to Our True Selves." Panache is an international speaker, a spiritual coach who has taught many people online and in person. Desai explains that he explains his God concept, which is exactly how we think and speak of God here in Unity. So I thought I'd share it with you. Desai said to Kuntz, "We have this external deification of God because we think so little of ourselves. We are fundamentally led to believe that we are unworthy. So God has to exist as something external to us, an external phenomenon. And then we're beholden to this God's mood." Desai said, "I'm not talking about the version of God that has anger management issues or that smites people. I'm talking about an infinite presence of love that we're all a part of, and that we all come from, and that we will all return to. That's what God is. And ultimately, we all are God. We're each an individualized aspect of God, with the ocean experiencing itself as the drop." Panache Desai is a renowned spiritual teacher. He facilitates others' ability to open their own inner divinity. He is on the faculty at the Omega Institute, the Kripalu Center, and the 1440 Multiversity, and he has addressed the United Nations Society for Enlightenment and Transformation. And he has written 2 books, Discovering Your Soul Signature and You Are Enough. I also liked very much the passage from the interview with Katie Kuntz, who asks him, "You teach that crisis is a catalyst that is meant to elevate us. Is that why we seem to be having so many crises in the world right now, starting with COVID-19? And Desai responds, "This is just the beginning of so much more that's going to happen. We're going to see one form of crisis after another for 10 years. And the purpose of this time is to restore harmony and balance. we're going to see, excuse me, we're going to be forced to feel the powerlessness and the hopelessness that constitute victimhood. Every person is having their false sense of control removed from them right now. We're being shown the fragility of life and that we exist beyond the boundaries of nations, of race, religion, ideology, sexual identity, and social economic backgrounds because the virus affects everyone. This experience is awakening us to the reality of our oneness and our connection with all others. We're also growing in empathy and in our capacity for connection. Everything that we took for granted, any sense of entitlement that we had, whatever we considered normal before the pandemic has gone out the window. It's just gone. We're now in the midst of redefining what it means to be human. We can no longer identify with what's outside of us as the truth of who we are. So when I think about life interruptions, I realize that this is exactly what Desai was referring to. We are having to let go of what we think we control and live as life happens. Jesus lived as life happened. Every day he walked out to teach, to heal, to minister to the multitudes who came to him. He dealt with whatever came to him each day. Whatever was his to do each day, he handled with love, patience, and optimism. This is perhaps what John Lennon meant when he wrote the saying that's attributed to him. Life is what happens while you are busy making other plans. Lennon was not saying that we should not make plans, but rather that the true experience of being alive is beyond those plans, and it happens to us. The ideal seems rather than to try to control or plan out every phase of life, it is better to embrace life and all that arises on our path. Whether we consider situations as interruptions, alternate calls for service, turnaround experiences, or turn in another direction experiences. I thought of the story given in Matthew 8, verse 5 through 13, when Jesus was out walking, and a Roman soldier, a centurion, came up to him and suddenly asked for healing for someone that he cared about back at his home. How Jesus was immediately ready and willing to disrupt his day, his plan for the day, and travel with the soldier to his home to heal this person that was important to him, his servant. Now, when Jesus had entered Capernaum, we read, a centurion came to him, pleading with him, saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, dreadfully tormented. And Jesus said to him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I'm not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak the word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to those who followed, assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go your way, and as you have believed, so it is done for you. Jesus didn't turn anyone away. I remember the surprise that Jesus must have had in Mark 2:24, when friends of a paralyzed man took tiles off a roof in order to lower their friend down into the presence of Jesus for healing. As told in Luke 5:19, they could not find a way through the crowd, so they went up on the roof and lowered him on his mat through the tiles right into the middle of the crowd, right in front of Jesus. And what about the story of the woman with the issue of blood? Given in 3 of the Gospels, she secreted herself among crowds coming to Jesus, moving ever and ever closer to him until she could reach out and touch the hem of his garment. She had an inner assurance and faith that one simple touch will be all that she needed for the healing that she desperately wanted and needed. And Jesus tells her, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Your faith has made you whole. Go in peace." How accessible Jesus always seemed to be to those in need. Perhaps this is the lesson that our life interruptions are to teach us. Ways that we can be more accessible, more helpful to others who come to us in need. In fact, the only time that I recall that Jesus was not so accommodating when others expressed a need for his help was with his friend Lazarus. And Lazarus died. Mary and Martha, also friends of Jesus, Lazarus' sisters, sent word to Jesus that their brother was very ill and he might die. It's strange that the story tells us that Jesus lingered another 2 days before going to see Lazarus. And by the time he arrived, Lazarus had died and had been in the tomb for 4 days. The story is given in Luke, the 11th chapter. But Jesus knew that he would bring Lazarus back to life. The delay and the healing miracle that Jesus performed, I believe, was to strengthen the faith of his followers, and metaphysically to give us the message that when cherished things like our dreams, our hopes for a better future, our hopes for healing of some type, for the strengthening of our faith and the return of joy in our hearts, when these things have seemed to die, the Christ within, the spark of God indwelling us, can bring about the needed revival and renewal, the needed uplift and healing, if we but open ourselves to its presence of love within us during our prayer or meditation times, and follow the guidance that we receive for any outer action that we need to take. Thank God that life happens to us when we are busy making other plans, as John Lennon declared. And thank God that the challenges we face bring their own gifts to us when we stay open to them. As Richard Bach says in his book, "There is no such thing as a problem without a gift for you in its hands. You seek problems because you need their gifts. May life bless you in all of your life happenings, and may all of your life interruptions bring a gift to you. May they all bless you."